Mirai stood outside room 847 with her 3 bags floating beside her on an anti-gravity cart. She checked her datapad again. Yes, this was the right room. The housing office had promised her a single occupancy room this semester. After 2 years of sharing space with another Velkari student who snored through all 4 of her nostrils, Mirai was ready for peace and quiet. She pressed her hand to the door scanner. The lock clicked open with a soft beep. Mirai smiled with relief. Finally, a space of her own on Nexus Station, where she could focus on her xenobiology research without any distractions. The door slid open. Mirai stepped inside, pulling her cart behind her. The room smelled strange. Not bad exactly, but different, spicy, hot, almost burning. She blinked all 3 of her eyes and looked around the quarters. Someone was sitting at the small table near the window. A human. Mirai's forearms went rigid. Her skin flushed from blue-gray to pale white. The human was eating something from a bowl. Steam rose from it. Red, angry steam. And next to the bowl sat a small brown square that she recognized from her research papers. Chocolate. Theobromine. Lethal to most carbon-based life forms. The human looked up and smiled. He had dark hair and warm brown eyes. He lifted his eating utensil in greeting. Whatever was in that bowl was bright red and steaming like toxic waste. "Oh, hi. You must be my new roommate. I'm Taeyang," the human said in perfect galactic common. His voice was calm and friendly. "Want some ramyun?" "I made extra." Mirai opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her training kicked in. Humans were from Earth, a Class 12 death world. They consumed toxins for pleasure. They had forward-facing eyes like predators. Their planet tried to kill them, constantly with storms and temperature swings, and they just lived there anyway. And this one was eating what looked like pure capsaicin with a smile on his face. "You need medical attention," Mirai finally shouted. All 4 of her hands fumbled for her communication device. "Don't move. I'm calling the emergency medical team." Taeyang's smile faded into confusion. He put down his utensil and wiped his mouth. "Medical attention? Why?" "I'm fine. You're eating poison." Mirai pointed at the bowl with 2 of her hands while the other 2 worked her device. "And is that chocolate? Do you have a death wish?" The human actually laughed. He picked up the brown square and took a bite. Mirai made a sound between a gasp and a scream. "This is just food," Taeyang said gently. "The ramyun is spicy, yeah, but it won't hurt me. And chocolate is like a treat for humans. It's totally safe. For us, anyway. Safe?" Mirai's voice went up an octave. The capsaicin concentration in that bowl could strip paint off a hull. And theobromine is a cardiac toxin. Taeyang stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. It was a gesture meant to be calming, but Mirai noticed how tall he was, how his muscles moved under his skin. Humans were persistence hunters. She had read about it. They used to chase their prey until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Before either of them could say anything else, the door burst open. Station security rushed in, their scanners out and weapons ready. "Emergency call from this location," the lead security officer said. She was a Thorian, tall and covered in protective scales. "What's the situation?" Mirai pointed at Taeyang with 3 hands. "He's poisoning himself. Look at what he's eating." The security officer looked at the table. She looked at Taeyang. She looked at her scanner. Then she sighed. "Ma'am, that's just Korean food," the officer said. "And chocolate. The human is not in danger." "But the toxins," Mirai started. "Humans can process those substances," the officer explained. "Their livers are very efficient. They actually enjoy spicy food." Mirai stared at the officer, then at Taeyang, then back at the officer. "They enjoy it?" she repeated slowly. Taeyang nodded and gave her an apologetic smile. "Sorry for scaring you. I probably should have warned you I'd be cooking. The smell can be pretty strong." The security team left after confirming there was no actual emergency. Mirai stood in the middle of the room, all 4 arms hanging limp at her sides. Her bags were still by the door. "There must be a mistake," she said quietly. "I requested a single room, or at least a Velkari roommate." Taeyang pulled out his own datapad and checked it. His face fell. "Oh, yeah, I think there was a housing mix-up. I was supposed to be in the human quarter section, but they moved me here because of some maintenance issue. I thought they said you knew about it." Mirai immediately called the housing office. The conversation that followed made her want to scream. Yes, there had been an error. No, they could not fix it right now. The station was at maximum capacity. Every room was full. The earliest they could reassign her was next semester. Next semester, 4 months away. This is unacceptable, Mirai said into her device. I cannot live with a human. It's not safe. The housing coordinator sounded tired. Humans are perfectly safe, Ms. Mirai. This is actually a wonderful opportunity for cultural exchange. Many students would be excited about this arrangement. Many students are idiots, Mirai muttered. But the coordinator had already ended the call. She turned to find Taeyang had cleared away his bowl of poison food. He was standing near his sleeping area, looking uncomfortable. Look, I get it if you're not happy about this, he said. I can try to stay out of your way. I'll keep my food on my side of the room, and I promise I won't die from eating chocolate. Mirai took a deep breath through her respiratory slits. This was a nightmare. She had spent years studying humans from a safe distance, reading papers about their impossible biology, watching videos of their bizarre behaviors, but she had never wanted to actually live with one. Fine, she said, but we need rules. Lots of rules. For the next hour, Mirai created a list. No human food near her sleeping area. No human food near her study area. Actually, all human food must stay in a designated zone at least 3 meters from her spaces. Temperature must be kept at exactly 24 degrees. No sudden movements. No loud noises before the station day cycle began. Taeyang agreed to everything with patience that Mirai found suspicious. Nobody was this agreeable. He must be planning something. As she was finishing unpacking her things, Mirai noticed something small and round floating near the ceiling. It was a maintenance drone, the kind that checked air filters and cleaned dust from vents, but this one had googly eyes stuck to its front sensor, and it was wearing a tiny hat. What is that? She asked, pointing. Taeyang looked up and his whole face brightened. Oh, that's Beeper. He lives here. It's a maintenance drone. He's a maintenance drone, Taeyang corrected gently, and he keeps the air clean. I gave him a hat so he feels appreciated. Mirai stared at the human, then at the drone, then back at the human. She pulled out her datapad and opened a new file. This one was labeled Incident Reports. She began typing. Day 1. Human has formed emotional attachment to inanimate object. Gave machine a name and clothing. Behavior concerning. Will monitor situation. That night, Mirai lay in her sleeping pod with all of her monitoring systems active. She had set alerts in case the human did anything dangerous, like eating more poison or trying to befriend more machines. Through the dimmed lights, she could see Taeyang in his own sleeping area. He was reading something on his datapad, completely calm, like living with an alien who was terrified of him was totally normal. Before he turned off his light, he looked up at the maintenance drone and said, "Good night, Beeper." The drone beeped once. Obviously, it was just a coincidence. Drones responded to various stimuli, but Taeyang smiled like the machine had replied to him on purpose. Mirai added another note to her file. Update. Human believes machine understands him. Pack bonding behavior more severe than literature suggests. This is going to be a long semester. 3 days into sharing quarters with Taeyang, Mirai discovered something new and horrible about humans. They ran for fun. She was working on her research when Taeyang came back from the station gym. His skin was covered in moisture. Sweat, the humans called it, a cooling mechanism that involves secreting liquid through their skin pores. It was disgusting and fascinating at the same time. Hey, he said, grabbing a towel. Did you know there's a zero-gravity marathon next week? I signed up. Mirai looked up from her datapad. A marathon? That's a long-distance running event, correct? Yeah, it's going to be amazing. 6 hours in the zero-G track. I've been training for it, 6 hours running, for no reason except entertainment. After Taeyang went to clean himself, Mirai opened her research files on human biology. What she found made her want to file another incident report. Humans were persistence hunters. On their home planet, they used to chase animals for hours, sometimes days. They would follow their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would walk up and kill it. Other predators were faster, but humans just kept going, and going, and going. She looked toward the bathroom where she could hear water running. Her roommate was a persistence predator, an apex hunter who killed through sheer stubbornness, and he had named a drone Beeper. The day of the marathon arrived. Mirai told herself she would not go watch. It was not her concern if the human wanted to exhaust himself in zero gravity, but her friend Hyemin called and convinced her to go to the observation deck. You have to see this, Hyemin said. Her forearms waved with excitement. Everyone is talking about the humans in the marathon. The observation deck was packed. Students from dozens of species watched the large screens showing the zero-gravity track. Runners floated and pushed off walls moving through the three-dimensional course in the center of the station. Mirai spotted Taiyang's number. He was in the middle of the pack, moving with smooth efficiency. Most runners were already slowing down. The Thorians had thick muscles, but they were breathing hard. The Centauri were graceful but tiring. Everyone was tiring, except the humans. After 30 minutes, half the runners dropped out. After an hour, only a third remained. The humans kept going. Their faces showed effort but not panic. Not exhaustion. They looked focused, determined. After 2 hours, Mirai noticed something that made her skin go pale. The humans were sweating heavily. Moisture dripped off them in the zero gravity, forming little floating spheres, and they were not stopping. They just kept pushing forward. Why are they still going? Someone behind her whispered. Don't they feel pain? 4 hours in, only 20 runners remained. 15 of them were human. Taiyang was in 5th place. His face was red and his breathing looked heavy, but he was smiling. Actually smiling. By the 6-hour mark, humans held the top 18 positions. Taiyang finished 7th. When he crossed the final marker, he pumped his fist in celebration and let out a happy shout. Then he floated over to the exit where medical teams were waiting. The medical team scanned him, checked his vitals, and cleared him as healthy. Mirai watched in horror as Taiyang met up with 2 other human runners. One was a male with a bright smile. The other was a female with short hair. They were all laughing and clapping each other on the backs. That was amazing, the female human said. Did you see the look on everyone's faces? Best marathon yet, the other male agreed. Hey, anyone want to get dinner? I'm starving. They wanted food. After 6 hours of continuous running, they were hungry. That evening, Mirai sat in their quarters when Taeyang returned. He looked tired but happy. He greeted Beeper the drone and collapsed onto his sleeping area with a satisfied sigh. Good race today, he said to her. Did you watch? I saw some of it, Mirai admitted. You ran for 6 hours. Yeah, my legs are going to feel it tomorrow, he stretched. But it was worth it. There's something about pushing yourself that feels really good, you know? Mirai did not know. Valkyrie did not push themselves. They lived in comfort. They avoided pain. The idea of choosing to exhaust yourself seemed insane. 2 days later, the next horrible discovery happened. Taeyang was working on their food synthesizer. The machine had been acting strange, sometimes producing food at the wrong temperature. He had his tools spread out on the floor and was reaching into the machine's internal components. Mirai was reading when she heard him say a word she had learned was human cursing. She looked over. Blood was dripping from his hand. Red human blood. A lot of it, medical emergency, she shouted, jumping up and reaching for her communicator. What? No, it's fine. Taeyang stood up and went to the cleaning station. He ran water over his hand. Just a cut. Sharp edge caught my palm. You're bleeding. Yeah, that happens when you cut yourself. He pressed a clean cloth to his hand. It'll stop in a few minutes. Mirai had already called medical. The team arrived 3 minutes later. By then, Taeyang had the bleeding mostly stopped. The medical officer, a centauri with tentacle-like arms, scanned his hand. Why did you call us for this? The officer asked Mirai. He was bleeding heavily. The officer looked at the small cut on Taeyang's palm. This is minor. Human blood clots naturally. The wound is already sealing itself. Sealing itself? Mirai repeated. Taeyang held up his hand. The bleeding had stopped. The edges of the cut were already closing. Yeah, we have pretty good healing. Unless it's really deep, we usually just let it fix itself. After the medical team left, looking annoyed at being called for nothing, Mirai opened her files again. Human regeneration capabilities were listed, but she had thought they were exaggerated. Apparently not. Humans could heal from wounds that would require surgery for most species. They had redundant organs. Their bones could break and heal stronger than before. They were built to survive damage. The temperature war started on day 8. Mirai liked the room at 24 degrees. It was comfortable, warm enough that she did not need extra layers. But she kept waking up cold. When she checked the temperature controls, they were set to 18 degrees. She set them back to 24. The next morning, they were at 18 again. Taeyang, she said during breakfast. Stop changing the temperature. He looked up from his food. Another meal that smelled dangerous. Sorry, I run hot. Humans have really active metabolisms. 24 degrees feels too warm for me. I am wearing 3 layers of clothing, Mirai said, pointing at herself. Taeyang was in a single thin shirt. Yeah, I noticed. Look, how about we compromise? 21 degrees? Mirai agreed, though she was not happy about it. Later that day, she looked up human temperature tolerance. What she found was terrifying. Humans could survive in temperatures from -40 degrees to +50 degrees. Their planet had extreme weather and they just lived in it. Some humans even chose to live in the worst parts on purpose. When she mentioned this to Taeyang, he shrugged. My grandmother lives in a place that gets to -30 in winter. She loves it there. Makes the best soup. His grandmother lived in -30-degree weather and made soup. Humans were insane. The final incident of the week involved Taeyang's growing collection of friends. And by friends, Mirai meant machines. Beeper, the maintenance drone, now had a small scarf. A ventilation spider bot had taken to sleeping near Taeyang's bed. And a service robot that was supposed to deliver packages had started stopping by their quarters for no reason. Taeyang talked to all of them. He thanked them for their work. He gave them names. The spider bot was Legs. The service robot was Raleigh. Mirai reported this to Professor Rintek, a specialist in interspecies behavior. The professor was an insectoid with compound eyes and clicking mandibles. Is this normal human behavior? Mirai asked. Professor Rintek clicked thoughtfully. Completely normal. Humans have extreme pack-bonding instincts. They form emotional connections with almost anything. Machines, plants, rocks, even celestial bodies. They have named their home star Sol and speak of it with affection. They bond with rocks. There are documented cases of humans keeping rocks as pets. They are a very social species that needs connection. When no other beings are available, they will create connections with objects. That night, Mirai lay in her sleeping pod and listened to Taeyang say goodnight to Beeper. Legs and Raleigh, the machines responded, with their normal operational sounds, beeps, whirs, mechanical noises, but Taeyang smiled like they had responded, with words of friendship. Mirai pulled up her incident report file. She had so many entries now. The human runs for fun. The human heals from injuries without medical intervention. The human survives in temperatures that would kill most species. The human has adopted 3 machines as family members. She started a new entry. Conclusion. Humans are the most terrifying species in the galaxy, and they do not even realize it. The power surge hit Nexus Station at 0300 hours. Emergency lighting kicked in and all quarters locked down automatically. Mirai woke up to flashing yellow lights and a recorded voice, saying that repairs would take approximately 48 hours. 48 hours locked in a room with a human. She sat up in her sleeping pod and looked across the quarters. Taeyang was also awake, sitting on his bed and checking his datapad. Food synthesizers are offline, he said. But we have emergency rations. The temperature control still works, at least. Mirai felt panic rising in her chest. 2 days trapped with limited food and a death world predator. She must have looked scared because Taeyang's expression softened. Hey, it's okay. We will be fine. I have some snacks that are not spicy if you want to share, and the station will fix this soon. He pulled out a container from his storage area. Inside were various human foods. He sorted through them and held up a few items. These ones are safe for most species. No capsaicin, no chocolate, just dried fruit and some grain bars. Mirai took one of the grain bars carefully. She scanned it with her datapad. The ingredients were all safe. She took a small bite. It was dry but not bad. Kind of sweet, not terrible, right? Taeyang smiled. My mom makes these. She sends me care packages from Earth. The first few hours passed in silence. Mirai worked on her research. Taeyang read something on his pad. The only sounds were Beeper doing his maintenance routine and the hum of the ventilation system. But by evening, both of them were restless. The quarters felt smaller than usual. Mirai tried to sleep but could not. She noticed Taeyang was also awake, staring at the ceiling. Cannot sleep either, he asked quietly. No, Mirai admitted. This is strange. Being locked in. Yeah, Taeyang sat up. Want to talk? Might help pass the time. Mirai considered refusing. But 2 days was a long time to spend in uncomfortable silence. I suppose that would be acceptable. Taeyang moved to sit at the small table. Mirai joined him, keeping a careful distance. He pulled out 2 drinks from his emergency supplies. Water mixed with flavoring. He offered one to her and she took it. What is Velkar like? Taeyang asked. Your home planet? Mirai felt herself relax slightly. This was a safe topic. It is beautiful. The climate is controlled. We have weather management systems across the entire planet. The temperature is always comfortable. We have no predators, no natural disasters. Everything is peaceful and stable. That sounds nice, Taeyang said. Very different from Earth. I have read about Earth, Mirai said. It is classified as a Class 12 death world. Taeyang laughed. Not a mean laugh. A surprised one. Is that really what they call it? Yes, because of the extreme conditions, the weather patterns, the tectonic activity, the presence of large predators, the diseases. Okay. Taeyang held up his hands. I get it, Earth is dangerous, but it is also home. We are used to it. How can you be used to living in constant danger? Mirai asked. It was something she genuinely did not understand. Taeyang thought about it. I guess because we do not think of it as constant danger. It is just life. Yeah, there are storms sometimes, and earthquakes, and you have to be careful about wildlife in some areas. But there is also amazing food and beautiful mountains and oceans and the people you love. The good things make the hard things worth it. Mirai tried to imagine loving a place that was actively trying to kill you. She could not. What about you? Taeyang asked. Why did you come to Nexus Station? To study xenobiology. To understand other species. Velkar is very homogeneous. Everyone is the same. I wanted to see diversity. And then you got stuck with a human roommate, Taeyang said with a small smile. That is definitely diverse. Mirai found herself almost smiling back. It has been educational. They talked for hours. Taeyang told her about his family. His mother, who was a teacher. His father, who designed buildings. His younger sister, who wanted to be a pilot. He described Korean food in detail, making Mirai both curious and nervous. He explained human holidays and customs. In return, Mirai told him about Velkari meditation practices, about their philosophy of living in harmony, about how they valued logic and peace above all things. That sounds really calming, Taeyang said. Could you teach me sometime? The meditation thing? Mirai was surprised. You would want to learn? Yeah, I like learning about different cultures. It is one of the reasons I came to the station. Earth can feel small sometimes, you know? Eventually, Taeyang pulled out a small device. Want to hear some music? It helps me relax. He played something he called traditional Korean music. It was different from Velkari music. More emotional. The instruments created sounds that felt like they were telling a story. Mirai listened and found herself moved by it in a way she did not expect. This is beautiful, she said quietly. Music is important to humans, Taeyang explained. When we cannot find the right words, we use music to express how we feel. Mirai played some Velkari harmonic meditation sounds. Taeyang closed his eyes and listened. After a few minutes, his breathing had slowed and his shoulders relaxed. Wow, he said. That actually works. I feel really calm. On the second day of lockdown, they were both tired but also more comfortable with each other. They shared the emergency rations. Taeyang showed her pictures of Earth. She showed him pictures of Velkar. Then, late in the afternoon, Mirai said something she had been thinking about. I should apologize, she said. Taeyang looked confused. For what? For how I acted when we first met. I was scared. I had read so many things about humans being dangerous. Deathworlders, predators, I treated you like a monster. Taeyang was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I get it. Humans do look scary to other species. We know that. It is lonely sometimes. Everyone keeps their distance. They are always waiting for us to do something violent or dangerous. But you are not violent, Mirai said. No, most humans are not. We are just people. We like making friends and eating good food and listening to music. We care about our families. We tell jokes. We are not that different from anyone else, really. We just come from a planet that made us tough. Mirai realized something then. All the things that made humans terrifying were just survival adaptations. They ate spicy food because their ancestors needed to eat anything available. They ran long distances because that was how they hunted. They healed quickly because their planet was dangerous. They bonded with everything because connection was necessary for survival. They were not trying to be scary. They were just being human. I am glad we got locked in together, Mirai said. I have learned more about humans in 2 days than I did in 2 years of research. Taiyang smiled. A real warm smile. I am glad too. You are a good roommate, Mirai. Even if you did call medical on me twice, Mirai felt something strange. Her chest felt warm. Her face felt warm. She realized with shock that she was experiencing what humans might call happiness. When the doors finally unlocked 42 hours later, neither of them rushed to leave. They packed up the emergency rations together. They made sure Beeper was functioning properly after the power issues. Outside in the corridor, students were complaining about the lockdown, saying how terrible it was, how boring, how uncomfortable. Mirai and Taiyang looked at each other and both smiled. Later that day, Hyemin came to visit. She stared at Mirai with all three of her eyes wide. You are not wearing your protective air filter, Hyemin said. Mirai touched her face. She had forgotten to put it on. She usually wore it to protect herself from human food smells, but she had gotten used to the quarters, used to the smell of Taiyang's cooking. It did not bother her anymore. I must have forgotten, she said. Hyemin looked at her suspiciously. Are you sure you are okay? Being locked in with the human did not damage your mind. No, Mirai said. And she realized it was true. Actually, I think it helped. That evening, Mirai opened her incident report file. She looked at all her entries, all her notes about terrifying human behaviors. She read the last entry she had written about humans being the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Then she added a new line. Update. Humans are terrifying, but they are also kind. And maybe being terrifying is not the same as being terrible. Maybe I was wrong about more than I thought. She saved the file and looked across the quarters. Taiyang was working on something at his desk. Beeper floated nearby. Everything looked normal, but something had changed. The quarters did not feel like a trap anymore. They felt like home. Mirai had made a terrible mistake. She had written a research paper about human behavior, just simple observations from living with Taiyang. Things like how humans befriended inanimate objects, how they consumed substances that should be toxic, how they ran for recreational purposes. She thought it would be a small academic paper that only her professor would read. Instead, it went viral across the entire galactic network. Within 6 hours of publication, it had been downloaded 10,000 times. By the next day, it was the most read paper in Nexus Station history. Students were sharing it on their communication devices. Professors were discussing it in classes. Someone had made memes from her observations. Her favorite observation, the one about Taiyang befriending the coffee machine in the common area, had become particularly popular. There were now images of the coffee machine with a caption that said, I have been adopted by a human. Send help. Taiyang found it hilarious. He showed her the memes with a big smile on his face. Look, I am famous now. Coffee machine dad. But not everyone thought it was funny. 3 days after her paper went viral, Mirai started seeing new posts on the station network. A group calling themselves the Species Purity Coalition had started a campaign. Their message was simple and cruel. Deathworlders do not belong here. They shared images of humans eating spicy food with warnings about dangerous predators. They posted statistics about Earth being a Class 12 death world. They claimed that humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too alien to be around other species. Mirai watched with growing horror as the campaign spread. Students she knew started avoiding the human exchange students. In classes, humans were asked to sit separately. In the cafeteria, tables would empty when humans sat down. One morning, Mirai found Taiyang sitting alone in their quarters instead of going to breakfast. His usual cheerful energy was gone. Are you okay? She asked. He forced a smile. Yeah, just not very hungry. But Mirai knew better. She had lived with him long enough to understand his moods. Something was wrong. That evening, Hyemin came to visit. She pulled Mirai aside and spoke quietly. You need to be careful, Hyemin said. People are talking about you. They say you are too friendly with the humans. I am just living with my assigned roommate, Mirai protested. I know. But your paper made it seem like you support them. Like you think they belong here. Hyemin looked worried. Your academic advisor spoke to me. He suggested you should focus on safer research topics. Something less controversial, safer topics. Mirai understood what that meant. Stop defending humans. Stop making them seem normal. Stop treating them like people. The situation got worse 2 days later. Taeyang came back to their quarters with a torn shirt and a bruise forming on his arm. His friend Do-hyun was with him, holding a cloth to a cut above his eye. Another human student, Jiwoo, followed behind them looking shaken. "What happened?" Mirai demanded, rushing to get medical supplies. "Some students cornered us in Maintenance Corridor B," Do-hyun said. He tried to sound casual, but his voice shook. "They wanted us to leave the station voluntarily. Said we were making everyone uncomfortable. Did they attack you?" Mirai asked. Taeyang shook his head. "One of them pushed Do-hyun. That is when it started. But we did not fight back. We just tried to leave. Why not? If they attacked you, you have the right to defend yourselves." Jiwoo laughed bitterly. "Because if we fight back, we prove them right. They say humans are violent. So we have to be calm, peaceful, non-threatening. Even when people are hitting us." Mirai felt anger rising in her chest. This was wrong. The humans had done nothing to deserve this treatment. That night, after the others left, Mirai sat at her desk and wrote. Not a research paper this time. Something more personal. She wrote about loneliness, about what it felt like to be feared for no reason, about how humans were not allowed to be angry or sad or hurt because any emotion might be seen as dangerous. She titled it, On the Loneliness of Being Feared. She published it to the station network before she could change her mind. The next morning, Mirai woke up to find her data pad flooded with messages. Some were supportive. Many were angry. Her academic advisor called her for an emergency meeting. He was a Thorian professor with sharp teeth and scales that flickered with irritation. "This is highly inappropriate," he said. "You are supposed to be objective in your research, not emotional." "I am being objective," Mirai said. "The humans are being discriminated against. That is a fact. You are risking your academic career for Deathworlders." The professor leaned forward. "Is that really worth it?" Mirai thought about Taeyang, about how he always said goodnight to Beeper, about how he shared his food even though she had been scared of him, about how he played music when he was sad and how his smile made their quarters feel warm. "Yes," she said, "it is worth it." The confrontation happened 3 days later. Mirai was walking to class when she received an emergency alert on her data pad. Security incident in Maintenance Corridor B. The same place where Taeyang and his friends had been cornered. She ran. When she arrived, she found a group of students surrounding Do-hyun and Jiwoo. The two humans had their backs to the wall. The leader of the group was a large Thorian male with aggressive posture. "You do not belong here," the Thorian was saying. "Leave voluntarily or we will make you leave." "We have as much right to be here as anyone," Jiwoo said. Her voice was steady, but Mirai could see her hands were shaking. The Thorian moved closer. That is when Taeyang appeared. He did not run. He did not shout. He just walked up calmly and stood between his friends and the group. And he went completely still. Mirai had never seen anything like it. Taeyang's entire body language changed. His shoulders relaxed, but his eyes were focused. His face showed no emotion. He looked at the Thorian with a calm that was somehow more frightening than any threat. The Thorian took a step back. So did several others in the group. They could feel it too. The presence, the quiet strength, the reminder that humans were persistence predators when they needed to be. "We are not going to fight you," Taeyang said. His voice was soft, but it carried weight. "But we are also not going to leave. This is our station too. If you have a problem with that, take it up with administration." The Thorian looked like he wanted to say something, but before he could, Mirai stepped forward. "I have already contacted security," she announced loudly. "They are on their way, and I am willing to testify about everything I have witnessed." The group scattered quickly. Within moments, security arrived. Mirai gave her statement. She told them everything. About the harassment campaign, about the previous attack, about how the humans had shown remarkable restraint despite being provoked. Other students started coming forward. More witnesses. More stories of discrimination. The security chief, a veteran officer, listened to all of it with growing concern. "This is unacceptable," she said. "Nexus Station is supposed to be a place of learning and cooperation. We will investigate this thoroughly." That evening, Professor Rintek gave a special lecture to the entire student body. The insectoid professor clicked his mandibles thoughtfully as he spoke. "There is something you should understand about humans," he said. "They have a trait called pack bonding. They form deep emotional connections with others. And those bonds extend to anyone who shows them kindness. When you show a human respect and friendship, you gain an incredibly loyal ally. But when you harm a human, their entire pack will remember. And they will protect each other with remarkable determination. He gestured to where Mirai sat with Taeyang, Do-hyun, and Jiwoo. Notice how even a Velkari researcher is now part of their pack. This is the power of human connection. It transcends species. After the lecture, Hyemin approached Mirai quietly. She held a food container. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, gesturing to the empty spot at their table. Mirai smiled. "No, please sit." Taeyang looked surprised but pleased. He offered Hyemin some of his non-spicy snacks. She took one carefully. "I am sorry," Hyemin said, "for telling you to be careful. For suggesting you should avoid humans. I was wrong." Do-hyun grinned. "Does this mean we have another member of our weird little family?" Hyemin laughed. "I suppose it does." That night, back in their quarters, Taeyang was unusually quiet. He sat on his bed, petting Beeper absent-mindedly. The little drone seemed to sense his mood and beeped softly. "Thank you," he finally said, "for standing up for us today. You did not have to do that." Mirai looked at him. "Yes, I did. You are my friend. And what they were doing was wrong, friend." Taeyang smiled. "The real kind. Not just roommates anymore." "Not just roommates," Mirai agreed. She updated her incident report file one more time. Final observation. Humans inspire loyalty through kindness. They face hatred with calm strength. They protect their pack, and apparently I am now part of that pack. I am not sure how this happened, but I would not change it. The message arrived during breakfast. Mirai was eating a simple grain meal when her datapad lit up with an official communication. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. Taeyang noticed her expression. "Bad news?" She turned the pad toward him. "It is from the Velkari Institute. They are offering me a research position, back on Velkar. It is very prestigious." Taeyang's smile froze. "Oh, that is great. Really great," but his voice did not sound happy. Mirai felt her chest tighten. She did not want to go back to Velkar. Not anymore. But how could she explain that? 2 hours later, Taeyang received his own message. He stared at his screen for a long time. "What is it?" Mirai asked. "An internship offer. From a top engineering company on Earth." He set down his pad. "It is the kind of opportunity I dreamed about when I was a student." They sat in silence. Beeper floated between them, beeping softly as if sensing something was wrong. Legs, the spiderbot, stopped its usual cleaning routine and stayed still. For the rest of the day, they moved around each other carefully, both working on their own projects, both pretending everything was normal. But the quarters felt heavy with words neither of them wanted to say. That evening, Do-hyun burst into their quarters with his usual energy. "Hey, did you hear about the Human Culture Festival? Station administration approved it. We get to show everyone what Earth culture is really like." Taeyang looked up. "Really? When?" "Next week. They are giving us the main assembly hall. Jiwoo is already planning the food demonstrations. I am going to tell stories about Earth history. We need you to do the music performance." Taeyang hesitated. "I might not be here next week." Do-hyun's smile faded. "What do you mean?" Taeyang explained about the internship offer. Do-hyun listened, then looked at Mirai. "And you? Are you staying?" "I received an offer too," she admitted. To return to Velkar, Do-hyun sat down heavily. "So our weird little family is breaking up?" Nobody answered. Do-hyun looked between them, then shook his head. "You know what? Do the festival with us. Both of you. Then decide. At least give us 1 more week." After he left, Taeyang and Mirai sat in silence again. Finally, Mirai spoke. "Are you going to accept the internship?" Taeyang picked up Beeper and held the little drone gently. "I do not know. It is everything I wanted. But leaving here feels wrong somehow. What about you?" "I do not want to go back to Velkar," Mirai said quietly. "There." She had said it out loud. "Everyone there thinks the same way, acts the same way. I have learned more here in a few months than I did in years at home." Taeyang looked at her with surprise. "Really? Really?" She felt her face grow warm. "Being here has changed me. Living with you has changed me. I do not want that to end." For the next week, they threw themselves into preparing for the festival. Taeyang practiced his music. Jiwoo worked on food demonstrations that would not terrify other species. Do-hyun prepared his stories. And Mirai helped with everything, offering advice on what might work for different alien species. The night of the festival arrived. The main assembly hall was packed. Students from dozens of species filled the seats. Even some of the professors came. Mirai sat in the front row with Hayam, and Jiwoo went first. She demonstrated how to make simple earth foods that were safe for most species. Rice dishes, steamed vegetables with mild seasonings. She explained human cooking as an art form, a way of showing love and care for others. Then Do-hyun told stories. He spoke about Earth history, not the scary parts about war and survival, but the beautiful parts, about humans building communities, creating art, writing music and poetry, reaching for the stars because they dreamed of finding friends among them. When Taeyang took the stage with his traditional Korean instrument, the hall went completely quiet. He played a piece that was both sad and hopeful. The melody spoke of longing for home while finding home in unexpected places. Mirai watched him play and felt tears forming. Valkyrie rarely cried. It was considered illogical. But she could not stop the tears from falling. When the music ended, the hall erupted in applause. Students who had avoided humans for weeks were clapping. Some were crying too. Professor Rintek stood up. "Perhaps we have been looking at the wrong human traits," he said. "We focused on their ability to survive danger. But what about their ability to create beauty, to form connections, to hope?" After the performances, Mirai was asked to speak. She had not planned to, but Do-hyun pushed her toward the stage with a grin. "Go on. You are part of this now." Mirai stood at the podium and looked out at the crowd. She saw curious faces, friendly faces, some still uncertain but willing to listen. "I want to tell you about my research," she began. "I came to Nexus Station to study other species. I thought I would observe from a distance. Take notes. Stay objective." Then I was assigned a human roommate by mistake. Light laughter rippled through the audience. At first I was terrified. I had read all the papers about death worlds and persistence predators. I saw Taeyang eating food that should be toxic and thought he was dying. I called medical services twice in the first week. More laughter. Taeyang grinned from the side of the stage. But then I learned something important. Yes, humans are tough. They survive in conditions that would kill most of us. They eat things that are poison to other species. They run for fun and heal from injuries that would require surgery for us. She paused. But that is not what makes them special. The hall was completely silent now. What makes humans special is that they care. They befriend maintenance drones and give them names. They share their food even with people who are scared of them. They create music that makes you feel things you did not know you could feel. They stand up for their friends even when it is dangerous. They turn strangers into family. Mirai looked directly at Taeyang. I was wrong about humans, and I was wrong about a lot of other things too. I came here thinking I knew everything. But the truth is I knew nothing. Living with a human taught me more than years of research ever could. She stepped away from the podium to applause. Taeyang met her at the edge of the stage. His eyes were wet. "That was beautiful," he said. "I meant every word." After the festival, they walked back to their quarters together. The station corridors were quiet. Other students had nodded to them as they passed. Some had even stopped to congratulate them on the festival. Inside their room, Beeper greeted them with happy beeps. Leg scuttled over to check on them. Everything looked the same as always. But something felt different. "I declined the internship," Taeyang said suddenly. "I sent the message yesterday." Mirai felt her heart race. "What, why?" "Because this is where I want to be." He gestured around their quarters. "Here, with you, with Do-hyun and Jiwoo and even Hammond now. I can do engineering anywhere. But this weird family we built, I do not want to lose that." "I declined my offer too," Mirai admitted. Yesterday evening, they looked at each other and both started laughing. Relief and joy mixing together. "So we are both staying?" Taeyang asked. "We are both staying." Then Mirai had a terrible thought. "Oh no. Station administration is going to make us poster children for mixed species housing programs, are they not?" Taeyang groaned. "Probably. We are going to be in so many brochures. Worth it? Totally worth it." 6 months later, their quarters had changed. One wall now displayed both Valkyrie art and Korean calligraphy. The temperature was permanently set at 21 degrees and neither of them complained anymore. Mirai had developed a tolerance for some mildly spicy foods. Taeyang practiced Valkyrie meditation every morning. They had also become unofficial mentors for the new mixed species roommate program. Every week, nervous students would come to them for advice. How do you handle cultural differences? What if your roommate eats something scary? What if you cannot agree on temperature? Mirai and Taiyang would share their experiences. Sometimes funny stories, sometimes serious advice, always honest. One evening, a young Thorian student came to them looking worried. My human roommate keeps talking to the cleaning robot. Is this normal? Mirai and Taiyang looked at each other. Both tried not to smile. Completely normal, Mirai said. Just wait until they start making little accessories for it. The student left looking confused but relieved. After the door closed, Taeyang picked up Beeper, who was now wearing a tiny scarf Mirai had made. Did you just defend human pack bonding behavior? He asked with a grin. Mirai reached out and patted Beeper gently. The drone beeped happily. I have been infected. There is no cure. That night, Mirai updated her research file one final time. She had been documenting her experience with humans for months now. But this would be the last entry. She wrote, Final conclusion. Humans are not terrifying. They are not dangerous. They are not too different to understand. They are simply human. And being human means being kind, loyal, creative, and hopeful. It means making friends out of strangers and family out of friends. It means loving fiercely and caring deeply. The galaxy was wrong about humans. And I was wrong too. But I am glad I was wrong, because being wrong led me here. To this room. To this friendship. To this home. She saved the file and closed her pad. Across the room, Taeyang was playing soft music. Beeper floated nearby, legs cleaned quietly in the corner. The temperature was perfectly comfortable. Everything was exactly as it should be. Mirai smiled. She had come to Nexus Station looking for diversity, for new experiences, for knowledge, and she had found all of that. But she had found something more important too. She had found home, in the most unexpected.